but if we're not gonna start being a little bit uncomfortable and stop pushing ourselves here, I think we're gonna see a very different new emerging market that is gonna take to that real fourth wave. Which I believe the fourth wave, it's gonna be, the signature beverages. That's gonna be what's happening in the Asian community.
This episode is proudly brought to you by Mapper Forward's workshop. It's time to become a coffee consultant. Learn how to diversify your revenue streams and create freedom from your day job while saying goodbye to that alarm clock forever by becoming a consultant within the coffee industry or directly to consumers who have shifted towards home brewing and home roasting. Protect your income from challenging times in the coffee value chain by taking this course today. Go to mapperforward.coffee/workshops or click the link in the show notes for details. Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Map It Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and this is episode 2 of a 5-part series with Nawar Adra from Stitch Coffee in Australia. Stitch is two cafes, a roastery, and a B2C brand as well. And also B2B and B2C, right? And B2B. Excellent. Thank you for the correction, sir. Nawar, we're talking about the Australian coffee scene. And so in this episode, I kind of want to help people understand what's happening in the Australian coffee scene at the moment. Because we all know that while the Americans would like to have an argument with me every fucking time I say this, that specialty coffee started in America, a lot of the world really takes a lot of their cues from what happened in Sydney and Melbourne 20 years ago and the boom that happened there. And we're really seeing echoes of that and ripple effects of that over the past 20 years. But what's happening around the world right now is very unique with regards to different emerging markets. I was just in Busan last week. There is a lot of interesting stuff happening all over Asia with regards to coffee and the different ways that they're setting up. The way that Luckin's moving through the market, the way Cottie's moving through the market, the way Starbucks is moving through the market, but also the way that smaller businesses are moving through the market across Asia. In Australia, we've had a very kind of similar model across the last 20 years in the sense that small businesses, neighborhood cafes, we have a very well cultivated coffee consuming market, right? What does that look like today?
Very good question. I think, me visiting Asia a lot and being able to go to Dubai with you and see what's happening around the world. I think Australia is really kind of plateaued a lot.
Right.
Like, we're not seeing crazy innovation. We're not seeing something unbelievably going on. We're not seeing anything like, outside our normal activities.
Yeah.
I think we just want to be comfortable.
That's really interesting.
I think we just want to be comfortable in the way we run the business and the way things goes. But unfortunately, the comfortable zone is finished. Right. So there is no more a lot of cups during the day from one customer. There's probably sometimes 3 a week instead of 5 a week. So you can see that a lot less and less people are actually consuming coffee these days. We can see because, we do a lot of B2B as well. Cafes are not as busy as they were before. Like, the number of 50 kilo a week, you're like, wow, back in the days was like good account.
I want to ask you about that. Let me just ask you something about that. When we were coming up in the industry, high volume was
80 plus.
80 plus a week. 80 plus kilos, folks. Just so that here 100 kilos a month is a big deal. When you and I were coming up, we worked at an espresso machine together where we were doing that a week.
Yeah. Yeah. And now it's like a good account, 35 to 40. Consider, wow, they're doing really well. But, I think another concept is what happened is a lot of cafes started they started specialty, but then they realized, you know what, if I do iced coffee, if I do the matcha, I think
Much
it's
is going out of
taking on.
control. Yeah.
It's going crazy. Uh, all the other cold beverages is really kind of taken off more than the coffee itself. I mean, we're becoming an ice latte, all the millennial becoming more of an ice latte, not anymore a very, I've never thought to myself, I will run out of clear cups.
Jeez.
The
Yeah,
takeaway
yeah.
clear cups, they move really faster,
Like
which is
the
quite interesting.
ice
The
latte
ice
kind of
drinks,
things. Wow.
the ice drinks. So it's changing, but I think we're kind of following the world now, but we're a little bit slower.
Okay.
We like to be comfortable. We don't, because, as you said, and I could see when I went through other places, like, visiting China, for example, 6 different cities. Every city has a very different palate, very
Unique.
different food, very unique, right? But then when you go to Australia, we are all kind of like, we all do the same thing. Like you can, some almost the same food across Adelaide to Sydney to Melbourne to all that. So we're really not really bringing anything extraordinary. Probably there's a few of us that right now trying to adapt to, more filter bar, more specialty, more high end, but we still like, we can count them by hand.
Yeah.
How many they are in each city, and which one is actually, kind of pushing the boundary to that next level. But, stuff like what I realized a lot happening in Asia is signature drink, being able to marry, the mocktail, or how do you make, instead of alcoholic cocktails, how do you base it on coffee, and how do you make it in different ways and very innovative way, and all that. So I could see us here, we're not really, we don't want to think outside the box. We don't want to push it. We don't want to push ourselves to get out and say, let's try something new. Let's try something different. Everything we're doing previously is not working, and to do the same thing, and, very hard, like to move from $4.50 to $5.
The Australian consumer won't let you do that.
Yeah, like we in Melbourne is accepted, in Sydney is not accepted yet. Like we just did the move, and it took me, I'll be honest, 4 months of thinking about it. It wasn't an easy decision to take, but there was a couple of articles that were just kind of telling people, hey, just be prepared that this is going to happen. And I think, we were a little bit more advanced in our signature drink. So we kind of introduced signature drink early on, and we were able to capitalize on being, one of the first one in Sydney. Now there's others moving in the same direction.
Folks, go get the yuzu cocktail. Is it yuzu and watermelon, or yuzu and...
Well, we use yuzu cold brew and watermelon cold brew, and
go get that from Stitch if you're in Sydney. I'll have the honey fizz the next time that I'm there. Yeah. But the yuzu cocktail is outstanding, absolutely outstanding. It's
really delicious. So those are, I see them kind of, we need to start focusing on something a little bit different. I think we need to start looking outside and how do we change what people think about coffee. But here, I think we're very comfortable, and that is the big problem.
Do you think that the reason that business owners are staying in that comfort zone is because customers are not prepared to be adventurous, or the customer doesn't have the luxury to do that? Or is it because the business owners are feeling so much pressure they're holding everything together, barely?
I think it's a combination, right? Like,
okay,
I think it's a combination. It's definitely, they are in their elements, I mean, they're doing the most hours these days, they're working.
Who? The business owner?
The business owners, because they have to save somewhere, somehow.
Right.
So it's very hard for them kind of, put their head up and say, all right, we're going to do something new and I'm going to, invest, $400 to come up with a new signature drink or something like that. Right. So
They
it's
don't
really
have the
not
400.
it's not easy, right? Like, sometimes they change wholesale because someone gave them 50 cents cheaper,
And then
per
we're
kilo,
raced to
which
the
is
bottom, right?
like, do you really think $100 a week gonna save your business? I don't think so. I think, you have to think a little bit beyond. There's a bigger problem, and like, just raise your prices, and you have to stand by it, and you have to make sure that you don't drop the quality, and your customer will understand. Like, we didn't have a single complaint yet, knock on wood, so far, about being $4.50 to $5, but I think people have started to accept that, to be in a place that serve, and you can see 3-4 baristas, and you can see, how serious they are about coffee, to expect to pay more for coffee. It's, it's something that they will understand. But if we're not gonna start being a little bit uncomfortable and stop pushing ourselves here, I think we're gonna see a very different, new emerging market that is gonna take to that real fourth wave. Which I believe the fourth wave, it's gonna be, the signature beverages. That's gonna be what's happening in the Asian community a lot, and you can see a big shift over there, and people seems to enjoy coffee. Here we don't have it. Here it's a consumption. It's something to wake me up, or it's a breakfast,
It's a
or it's just
functional
part
drink.
of my daily. It's a functional drink. It's not. Let's sit down and let's talk about the aromatics that is coming out of this, pour over today.
Is that what they're doing in China?
Yeah, I mean, you can
Really?
sit down for hours and talk about
Talk about coffee?
But then there's a big, yeah, it's amazing. Like, the palate over there, I'm like, I don't even taste what you guys tasting.
For real?
Insane. Yeah, they're seriously, it was insane, because their food is so freaking.
Intense.
There's so much going on in their food. It's so intense. It's so.
Bro, I'm still hungry from Korea.
Yeah, it's insane. So, and I'm not saying we don't know how to drink coffee, but we are very good at drinking espresso. We are strong at milk-based coffee, but we're not strong at sit down, enjoy a filter, really appreciate the cup, understand a little bit more about coffee, and learn why you need to, give more time and effort towards it,
Tell me, in the last episode, you were saying that food now plays a bigger role in the cafe than coffee did, or it's the balance is shifting.
It's always, food was always a strong reason, right? But we always think to ourselves, good coffee will bring people, and then
it was a loss leader for that reason, right?
Yes, but now it's like kind of food is the bringer, and coffee become, an add-on or something along those lines, in some cases. So you realize food is. Of course, there are some cafes, very specific cafes, where they were lucky and they only served coffee for many, many years, and they're known for that purpose, right? So they still exist, those good names. But now if you coming in and all that, like, it's very, very hard. You do need other reason for them to come in and spend, because you do need to have extra income so you can pay the staff, you can afford.
Do you think
to do what you can afford?
Do you think, well, actually, let me ask you this way. What role do you think market saturation is playing in this?
Oh, massive, because, as I said, we in Australia, we have a very good amount of amazing coffee shops. Like, we have a very, very good amount of, good quality food, good, but our coffee is very similar, as well. And our offering is very similar. So hence why you're going to see a lot more saturation. And our market is not getting any bigger. The market is not like,
it's still 25 million people. Yeah.
Exactly. So when I came to Australia, we're probably 23. It's not like we tripled or doubled or in the last 17 years. So we're really hovering and now the house is so expensive. The rent is like,
Can you
next
just tell
level.
people like what rent is like? And people don't believe
I
me when I
mean,
tell them.
two bedroom is like, our two bedroom $950 almost a week,
A
so
week, folks. Like for those of you in the States that are paying like, 2,000 a month, we're talking like almost 1,000 a week. So
yeah.
it's
And this
wild.
two bedroom is not like, there's way more expensive and you have to live really far, but it's quite expensive. Like it's not cheap. So a lot of things has changed. The other things that changed that we didn't do before, also marketing, branding,
Mm,
spending on all these exercises that didn't exist a few years back, where everybody was about word of mouth. You put a post on
mm,
Instagram, then you get this, you're going to be busy for a while, happy days. But now you have to constantly remind people of your existence, you have to, hey, I'm here, I'm there. And you have to spend a lot more money on branding. People want to see you as a lifestyle. They don't want to see you as just
mm.
passing by. So some consumers are changing. There's a lot happening.
In the next episode, we're going to talk about like the struggles. We've talked about the struggles, but I want to talk specifically about it from a coffee roaster perspective. Because in all of this, because the cafe model in Australia is very interesting compared to, let's say, the cafe model here in Dubai, right? Here, the cafe model, you never really talk about who's roasting your coffee here in the cafe. In Australia, it was a part of what your consumer, the first question they asked you when you opened was, whose coffee are you using? And I'd like to know a little bit more about how that's positioning now. And we're going to talk about that in the next episode because B2B is something that is becoming less and less and less attractive to roasting companies. So around the world. So let's have a conversation about that in the next episode. Please join us, folks. Peace, love, and peanut butter. Have an amazing rest of your day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I really hope you enjoyed this episode, friends. Please don't forget to show us some love by subscribing, liking, commenting, and most of all, sharing this podcast with your friends. Check the show notes for links, including our sponsors and our Patreon. And stay tuned for more great conversations on the Daily Coffee Pro by Map It Forward.